Welcome back to the Stranded J podcast. We have a little bit of a different episode for you this time around. We had a online interview with Justin Cristelli, or TheRealManos on YouTube. I've known Justin for a very long time. I think we talk about it. It's been probably 15 years I've known Justin, and this is the first time we've actually been able to talk to each other besides just in chats and things. Justin is a writer, actor, a YouTuber, and he has his own publishing company, Manos Publishing, where he has created his character, the Red Knight, and you can find him at manospublishing.com. And it was great to talk to him about what it's like to be an indie comic book creator, his writing process. We talk about a lot of comic books, a lot of our inspirations, what got him to write, and it was a really great conversation to just kind of sit and talk to him for a while. I hope you guys enjoy it. And without further ado, let's just jump right into the interview with TheRealManos, Justin Cristelli.
The Stranded J Podcast.
I was just looking at my original channel, my Stranded J channel, that was originally TheaterMan777, and that it has hit 15 years since my first video, and I definitely knew you before I started. I definitely watched your videos. So I think, what were you, like 2008 is when you started?
2008, my first video was a review of the first Iron Man film.
That's right.
So it's easy to date that and figure out when... the Watchmen film hadn't come out yet. There was actually they had put like previews out in magazines, and so I talked about that in the video. I hadn't really figured out how I wanted to do it. So yeah, that was my first video. And May, oh my god, May is usually, I have to check the date. Usually in May is the anniversary. And oh god, how long has that been? 2008, getting on 17 years or something like that.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was looking, I think it was July.
To think about.
July of 2009 was when I jumped in, and I jumped in because I was actually inspired by you and Blows Himself Up Dude, or Brown Coat Eric, who is no longer around, but I was really inspired by his setup, where it was really just record using a Rock Band microphone and using Windows Movie Maker with some pictures in front of it, and it was very static and not scripted, and it went well for so long. I was actually really surprised it got good response for all those years, and I still get people commenting on videos from 10 years ago. It's crazy.
Isn't that weird? I get the Mystery Science Theater movie. The Mystery Science Theater reviews are the ones that will get the most comments, even years afterwards. Like I did, in the mid 20, close to 10 years ago, I did a worst films on Mystery Science Theater 3000. I still comments on that.
Yeah.
To this day, it's just weird. It's like, wait, what the hell did I say in that video? It's like, let me go look.
Well, I think I was like 14, 15 when I started. So it's just crazy that,
oh my god,
people are still taking opinions of mine from then. And I definitely don't remember a lot of the things I said or thought back then.
Very happy I did not have YouTube when I was 14. Good Lord.
I know.
It'd be so embarrassing. I would not look back fondly on those videos if I was making them at 14. Oh my god.
I was talking to my wife about that because we had they have all these cringe compilations and things on YouTube now of all of, and you watch them and it's a lot of teenage kids just kind of being teenage kids, and it's not really cringy in a way, I guess it is, but they just recorded it, and a lot of people didn't really have the opportunity to. And so, I watch those and I'm kind of like, it's just a different time, because if they, even with me being, 14, 15 when I started, if they would have seen the stuff I was doing when I was 12, 13, 11, 10, and I would have recorded it, it would have been just as cringy just because of your age.
I I gotta tell you, if YouTube was around when I was like anywhere between like 12, 14, I'd be doing that. I'd be doing those videos because
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to do something like that all my life. Like as a kid, I set up a talk show in my garage,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I was going to plan to have like people come over, and I'll do this kind of talk show thing. And let's see, I wanted to do radio for a while, but so yeah, I would do fake radio programs when I was like 10 and 12 and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I would of course jumped into YouTube head first. Um, at the earliest, any age,
Yeah.
like 8, 9, 10, whatever, would have definitely been doing that. Which would have been a terrible place, but I still would have done it. And yeah, it's just so strange. Like time is just so because yeah, I'm about what is it? March. I'm like a month and a half away from turning 54,
Yeah.
and it's so weird. Like I was God in my 30s, and I I don't know if I felt old immediately. It wasn't until I started doing videos with some other YouTubers, like Blows Himself Dude
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I started to feel like, man, I guess I'm older. This is weird. I didn't think about that. Um, so I don't know. It hasn't occurred to me to just stop. So I just keep going.
It's so crazy too,
Yeah,
just how I feel like, that it says 15 years for my channel, but it feels like I'm still in 2010 at least. I still can't wrap my head around it being 2025. And then you see the ages of all these people, and you're like, when did they get old? When did I get old? When did this all get old? And YouTube's been around for however, like, it's just crazy how fast that all went and how it's changed. But it didn't feel like a
makes no
long time.
sense. It makes no sense. How is it? How has this time gone by?
And like everything's
Yeah,
different.
17 years. It's been 17 years.
17. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. And yeah, because I just remember I was just like sitting in my room watching you and like we said, Blows Himself Up Dude and a couple other people, and I was like, I have things to say, and I guess I don't know if people want to hear it, but it kind of can be like a diary situation, and I can just kind of just say what I want to say, and then before I knew it, I did get some people who were just like kind of like really excited to hear what I had to say, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll keep going, but and then the
Yeah.
climate changes and
And
everything gets different, but yeah.
I know there's so many. I'm exactly totally honest what I said. I've never considered quitting. I've considered quitting a few times because I have seen like YouTubers change into careers, and I've seen YouTubers like get television professional in some cases. Like I've seen people like do one like this looks like a show that would be on a network or a
Right.
cable channel somewhere, and I still just do my thing where I just sit in front of a camera, my old camera, and talk with barely any cuts. I don't like doing cuts. I'd rather just talk to the camera. And some people get pissed at me if I have too many uhs and ers in my speech. But to be honest, I this is the kind of way I want to do it. I just want to simply talk freestyle,
Yeah.
unless I have a massive like uh tangent where I just lose track. In that case, I'll usually like turn the camera off and just start over.
Right.
But yeah, that style has always appealed to me. Just talk to people. I probably could be slick, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth.
I've attempted a few times to be slick. Yeah,
Like I've had, my times where I'm like, how far can I get with this without having to think about an edit I got to make, later on, where I could just kind of start and stop. That's just great for me. And then there have been times that I've put some effort into editing, and it's great, and it's a great, but there's really not a difference in response. I think it's all about just what you're talking about.
yeah,
That's most important. And if you can do that, then you're
exactly.
going to
And
get,
there have been times. there have been times where I've like spent a lot of like time and production time on a video. Like I'll script it, I'll rehearse it, I'll work on the editing, and then it gets, I don't know, maybe a few views, and it makes you think, why bother?
Yeah.
Like, you know, some of my most successful videos are just me getting in front of the camera and just talking.
Right.
Um, like like most successful video is still like me reacting to some Steven Universe news, and it's just 3 minutes of me going, "Oh, hey, there are new episodes coming," blah blah blah, and that caught on and had 28,000 views, which is huge for me.
Yeah.
Um, and that video literally took me 30 minutes.
Right.
It just heard the news that came out. I just had my computer on me, recorded it, and put it out there. And it was out there in like half hour,
Isn't that funny?
start to finish, and it's so weird. It's some of the least effort I've done has been my most successful stuff.
I've noticed that too on my wife's pretty big on TikTok, and she's noticed that with her videos where she puts in a lot of effort into something and a comedic thing, and then it just turns into like a big production. And then there are some things she has posted because in the moment it was just funny to post, and it gets the most views, or it's the biggest, most popular thing with a million
Mm-hmm.
comments on it and things. So it's carried over to the other
Yeah,
social media platforms and things too, where it's just off the cuff stuff is
it's so
really
strange.
really popular.
It's so strange, and actually, that even works within my writing work. Like Krampus in the Corner is the most successful thing I've ever written. I spent maybe an hour on that project. Lindsay did all the art and the plush dolls, and the most of the work regarding the Kickstarter campaign. I just sat down and wrote a parody of Elf in the Shelf for like an hour maybe, and I knew what I wanted to write. And I didn't write it in rhyme because I cannot write in rhyme. I have no talent whatsoever to rhyme. Um, and yeah, that's easily outgrossed everything else I've done. And I've spent years working on other projects, and they make a few bucks here and there, but like this was completely different. It was a game changer, and it's so strange. You think, oh yeah, let me just shit this out, and then you're actually found something. And I've heard other stories like that before.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings a good point. So one of my first questions for you is, so you've obviously, since I've known you, been a big writer, and you've written a lot of things,
Yeah.
whether it's comic books or novels or novellas, whatever they may be. When did you first realize that's what you wanted to do, and you wanted to put a real effort into it and get it, whether it's published or get it finished? Because that's the hardest thing for me is when you write, is it you get a motivation and then it kind of goes away, and you go, well, do I want to keep going? And you've had a lot of stuff that's obviously completed. So where did you find that?
I have to say, in my teens, I only wanted to be, if if I was going to do something artistic, I wanted to be an actor. I did want to have a couple other ideas. I almost became a history teacher. I thought about doing that, but I wanted to, and then just for the hell of it, I had to write a play for school, and I really enjoyed doing that. And I wrote a second one, which I actually was an even better success and got even performed. And I just really like doing it. I attempted to write more plays, and my ideas kept getting more elaborate. And then I realized, like, you know what? I'm a comic book guy. I'm a big comic book fan. Why don't I just do that for? And this is, of course, in 1990 when I created Red Knight, um, and I had to be really connected. Work through publishers and submissions and stuff like that. You could do independent stuff. That was already a thing, but it was very expensive to me, and a lot of work involving techniques and infrastructure that I had no idea at the time how to do. But over the years, I've learned a lot through other indie creators, and the internet has definitely made things a lot easier. It does a lot of your marketing for you if you don't have to fight the algorithms. Um, and you can connect with people as far as like finding, creating people to work and edit and stuff like that. But it's kind of always, it's been almost there because I loved as a kid writing Spider-Man stories. And one day I wrote a story where Spider-Man meets a young kid superhero, a young guy who's like 10 years younger than he is, um, who is now a hero and respects Spider-Man. And um, it's Todd McClane, the guy who I made a career doing Red Knight with, and I really liked the character. So I decided to just pull him out of this thing that I cannot publish.
Right.
And of course, fan fiction back in '80s, '90s, I didn't know where to publish that. I don't know who would read that. But I knew, even then, like, oh, if I make this my own thing, I could, release that. And that's kind of what got me started. Red Knight, Tom McClane is extremely important to me because he made me realize I wanted to write, and that floundered for years, and I found other things I wanted to write and create. And I'm glad I eventually got around back to having him kind of be my main creative force, but it's caused me to write novels. I've like written film scripts because of this, and it's just been a matter of like figuring out what else I could do. And I tend to think of it as a fun challenge, and if I'm lucky, I could make a career out of it.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's another question I have for you when it comes to the Todd McClane character is when you're writing, everyone kind of has a voice. And when you think of that character, do you put a lot of yourself in him, or do you get kind of a hodgepodge of many different people and different inspirations in that kind of combine, or is it one kind of focal voice?
Yes. And Todd McClane is basically me. He is the most me of all my characters. I think all writers will have portions of themselves because it's their point of view.
Yeah.
No matter if it's a character that is completely opposite of you or your motivations or your personality or whatever, you're still going to like filter that character through your own self. And I do that with of course all my characters, but Todd McClane is specifically the most me, and I didn't 100% realize that at the time when I started him. Very quickly I realized like Todd wants to be this thing and a career. He wants to do a career that everyone tells him he's crazy to do. He doesn't have any idea how to get into it. It's harder once he's in it than he thought it would be. And it breaks his heart constantly. And I didn't realize until I was a little bit into it that I realized how much of myself was in him and vice versa. The character of Martha Brown started because I wanted a cop character for him to partner up with, like a Jim Gordon type of character. Actually, Jean DeWolf started that from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, God, it sucks they killed off Jean DeWolf and never replaced her. Like they never came up with an adequate character for that.
Yeah, that's true.
And that kind of got the ball rolling, and I kind of created Martha, and just started out as my cop character that was cool and did cool cop action stuff, and she evolved. And I think that's the thing about Martha that I'm really proud of, is Martha was the first character I created that evolved from my original concept and kind of built her own character. I just kind of followed through with it, like, oh, okay, well, if she does this, then she can do that, and so on and so forth. And that's when I realized, like, oh, maybe I don't totally suck at this. She was very helpful in that regard. I'll tell writers specifically, but artists as well. Like sometimes, if you're lucky, the thing will start to kind of like become natural. Like the story will become natural, the characters will become natural, and it almost doesn't even feel like you're making it up, which is nice. You're just allow yourself to follow the thread you're doing, um, and if you're lucky, maybe it goes somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't, I'm not a huge writer, but I think my wife and a few other people have always told me that I have, kind of the natural kind of voice to do something and write some stuff. And I've had some stuff here and there that I've started and some stuff that I haven't completed and things like that. And it's always tough for me when you have to get into the multiple voices, especially. I think that's why I think that's what a lot of people mean when they talk about like it's hard to write dialogue because then you have to have multiple different directions of voices from different perspectives and kind of also continue that thread. And so I've kind of cheated that a little bit with recent writing with making a thing smaller and just making sure that the voices that I do have are very focused on what I want them to be. I think some people kind of bite off more than they can chew when they start writing because they have a big idea, which is very creative and great, but they just they have to balance all those voices that they may not have a full connection to yet, and then it kind of has to progress into something different over time. But yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed with people I've talked to, at least.
It is tricky. I love writing dialogue, but I can fall into the trap of Brian Michael Bendis trap, where all of it's really cool, dialogue, like sounding from the same person. Because it's you. You're writing it.
Yeah.
But you gotta like step back, and I've had to do that with some of my work. Like take a step back and just make sure, this isn't too samey and stuff like that. And what's a weird example I sometimes throw out there with character dialogue is Bob's Burgers. Because I feel like if you took a script from Bob's Burgers where all the Belcher family is like having conversation and you took away the voices and you just read the script without the names on it, you would know which character would be speaking. You could tell the difference between Bob versus Louise and Jean because they're they're such strong characters. And a lot of my stories and a lot of my dialogue will come directly from the character. And if the character isn't strong enough, it can show that way. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of creators.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I listened to your reviews, and let's see, I writing is something I think you can do because I think you have a nice, thoughtful angle on a lot of the work you talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the benefit too is you going back to acting as well. I've been a big actor most of my life, and I've done various different versions of acting, whether it's on stage or I've done a little bit of short film. I've done all these things. And when you're really into acting, it's usually when you are you love getting into someone else's skin and really getting to know who they are and getting a different perspective from your own. And I think that helps in writing a lot too, especially when you're writing voices, because that's the goal when you're an actor. So that's also been I think a bit of a benefit for me is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. That's the whole point of acting. And then in writing, it just makes it so much easier because you just basically kind of translate that. You're basically acting out the dialogue.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it feel the most natural as well.
And I tend to tell people, like, when writing dialogue, say it out loud.
Yeah.
If it sounds weird and stupid, rewrite it. Like, right. That's all you have to do. Your ears will tell you, like, wow, that's not right. Let me just fix that. And sometimes I'll like go back. Like sometimes with Martha Brown's dialogue, I'll go, wait, that's way too wordy and way too. She is more to the point of a person, and she holds a lot of secrets. And like, nah, that's too talky. Where a character like Todd will be a little bit meandering when he talks, and he kind of like loses track and stuff like that. And you just got to know.
Yeah, I agree. How many issues of Red Knight proper are you into at this point?
Uh, Publishing. Currently, I've released 7. I'm about to do a Kickstarter for issue 8. 9 is in the can, and it is almost finished. It needs to be lettered, but 10 is just about done. And outside of that, I have up to issue 14 scripted.
Nice. You had some side stories too, with the Martha Brown character, and have you just had one of those, or have you had multiple?
I was briefly working with a company. I guess I can say I don't even know if they're even existing anymore. Short Fuse Media, and after things fell apart with Primal Paper and Jeff Hewitt's Dead West, I decided to kind of go out and do my own thing. And then I got contacted. We started talking, me and this other independent creation publisher called Short Fuse, and they were doing a lot of cool stuff. And I felt like I could fit into the vibe, and I got a I got a contract agreement. They were going to publish my book, and after about a year, they still weren't publishing my book, and they started to dissolve and split apart, and which really sucks because I thought that company had a lot of good stuff they were putting out there and kind of chance to really kind of be a thing. And one of the things we were talking about, we were going to re-release Red Knight in color, which I ended up doing myself. But one of the things we were talking about was a Martha Brown miniseries. And I wrote the first 2 issues, and I was in the middle of the third one when all that fell through. Uh, so that was kind of an important story arc because I was going to get into a bit of her history. And the murder mystery I'm kind of proud of that I wrote. So I'm kind of decided to pull that, and I'm going to probably, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do a solo series or just kind of fold it into the Red Knight comic. Yeah, she has her own story arcs going on, and she's definitely a woman with a big backstory that has only grown. And like I said, she's a character that developed on her own, and that has given me a lot to write as far as like this portion of the universe is concerned. So that's kind of where she is right now. I'm pretty. I'm kind of keeping some stuff close to the chest on where I'm going to develop the character, but yeah, she's been a lot of fun to write.
Sure. That kind of brings me to my next question too, about, because you've obviously dealt with many different publishers and things like that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not very privy with like indie comics and indie developers in that way. I have, dabbled here and there with some of that. For someone like myself, or for other people who don't know a lot about indie publishing, what are some of the bullet points that you would like to get across for people to kind of understand that side of the business and how that kind of works and what to think of?
Let's see. Well, a lot of companies. First off, a lot of people call like Marvel, DC, like the mainstream comics, and everything else independent, which is ridiculous. Like, Dark Horse, Image, they're not independent. They have movie studios like making
Right.
work of their projects. And IDW has like comics about Transformers and Ghostbusters and Star Trek. It's like
Sure.
that's not independent. If you're doing Star Trek comics, you're not an independent.
Right.
And a lot of like independent people. There's some really wonderful comic companies out there. Do I have it? It would be great if I had it right on me. Yes, I do. I have a. Oops, that's not what I was grabbing. There we go. Let's see. There's this book that I'm friends with this guy Marvin Wynn, who produces this comic The Edge, or Comics Burrow. And Comics Burrow is, let's see, is a smaller independent company. There's and he's out in Pittsburgh, and he gets in Diamond. And there's a lot of money you have to put on a lot. Like there's a lot of money you put into comics. Like my with Manos Publishing, like the books I put out, the Red Knight comics, the Kickstarters I put out, like the continuing production really does depend on the success. And every issue bought, like every reward people put forth and back on the Kickstarters, all that really does go into making the comic and making it possible. Where if you don't buy Batman for a little while, who cares? Batman will come out. There will be Batman and Spider-Man. If you didn't get it, it's fine. But when it kind of depends. When I'm the books is kind of like living and dying in the Kickstarters. Like if they're successful, good. If they aren't successful, I've gotten to a point where like I can put it out, but it'll be a little bit more trouble. I personally have I haven't had the budget to put it in Diamond, and if you put through like Diamond and other distributors, you have to put forth a lot of money, so they can take the chance of like getting all these comics sent out, and distributed through stores throughout the country. And you do have to put money up front, and sometimes you don't have the money up front, and that's why the internet has been really extremely helpful. Like there's some independent creators that don't even go through stores. They can't afford it. They'd rather just go directly. I get a lot of I get a lot of sales through the Kickstarters and the conventions I do.
Yeah.
And you got to tour. You got to do conventions. You got to do shows. You got to do signings if you can set that stuff up. And it's a lot of work. And I think that's the thing. Like, people forget about the work part. I have seen creators like get a table at a show and just kind of sit there and like don't do nothing, don't talk to people, or go about and be in the show and have their friend watch the table. Hey, you got to work at it.
Yeah.
Like and it's not like a hobby unless you think of it's a hobby. But it's going to sell like a hobby if you treat it like that. And I don't think, I do a lot of work on getting this stuff out, but I'll be honest, there are days where I don't think I work hard enough. Like I see, like I mentioned The Edge here, this guy, I see this guy working out a lot. I see him doing his best to put this book out there, and he works his ass off. And, and it shows, like it's out there. But you kind of have to, nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Like nobody demanded Red Knight to exist. I had to make Red Knight exist. And I have to keep him out there. So that's something about it. It's work, but it's fun work, but it's work.
Yeah. And I mean, just like a lot of things that you enjoy, it's a bit of a sacrifice too. And there's a lot of, you got to make a few financial sacrifices, if not a lot of financial sacrifices. And you have to, time sacrifices as well. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck in a lot of the things that they do, where they're like, I can do this. And they just think of kind of the broad, idea of it. And it's, and they think of the end result. And then they look, they get started and they go, well, you got to do this and this and this. And I have a friend who's opening up his own board game store. And it's not to sell board games. It's a place where, people can join of all walks of life and play board games together. And it's kind of a coffee shop in the same way. I had my friend Tony, who I had on the podcast a couple episodes ago. And, he's been talking to me about it for years, and just how much work goes into it from the start, and how much sacrifice, but on top of it, just the things you never think about. I mean, whether it's, starting a business, or whether it's the creative side of it and the things you want to do and how logistically you can make that happen, and the staff and things like that. And that's where I think that's the point where a lot of people go, I don't want to do this. And that's where you have to tell yourself, how far do you want to go? Mm-hmm. And, So it's always a testament when you see your work out there completed and you're able to share it with people. I think that's like probably the best feeling ever, because that's where you can see where that hard work came in.
It is kind of amazing, and that board game cafe sounds amazing. That sounds like a really cool idea. But yeah, you just exactly what you said. It is sacrifice. Like there are mornings I don't want to get up and write.
Yeah.
I want to get up and like. I'm trying to get a indie comics show at a local library. It's like, well, I got to get up. I got to have meetings. I got to go, discuss things and work some stuff out. I can't just show up, when the show goes and just say, hey, I have to work at it. I have to get the thing going, and make some planning. And also, I got to sacrifice, a bit of my, money and savings. Like, what I make on Red Knight, I try to, put forth in producing more. And yeah, it'd be nice to save that money up, for retirement or go to Disneyland or whatever, a car.
Yeah.
But I want to put out more issues of Red Knight. I want to put out like more DeVita novels and put I have like these other projects I would like, and I got to commission art for those, and commission uh printing of the books, and like all these sort of things. You just have to continue on. And also I got to figure out like, oh yeah, I got to pay taxes on this shit. It's like, oh yeah, I gotta pay a license. Like, oh damn, man, like I can't just do it. Oh damn.
Yeah.
And that's just the stuff you have to think about, because like I mentioned Bob's Burgers when we were talking about dialogue, but like man, I feel like I really relate to Bob Belcher in that regard, because he's very good at making burgers, but he sucks at the business part, and he's had to kind of like stumble and figure it out as he goes. And I only people who make art and are cartooning and writing would interpret it that way, because that's a lot like making art. Um, and you kind of, unfortunately, you can't depend on people like making your dream happen. Like uh, yeah, the big budget studios or publishers, they'll take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Even smaller studios and publishers, will take advantage of you. You have to be really mindful of that. And I have like I've worked with I've had some really good experiences. Um, but like I decided I needed to control my own destiny, which is why I formed Manos Publishing. Just put everything under the umbrella of that. And yeah, it's something I resisted doing because I didn't want to do all the work, but kind of have to do all the work. Now, it would be nice if I could figure out like if this can land me some work elsewhere where like, oh, all I have to do is just show up and write and just be me. Like great, okay, cool. Um, but at the end of the day, the big things I'll do are my things. And to be honest, that's when they succeed and when you get something created, that's extremely satisfying.
Yeah.
When I see one of my books produced, I am I couldn't be more proud, because it's now a physical thing that exists because it came out of my brain, and somebody has read it, and I've had people recognize my work. And that's incredibly satisfying. And to be honest, it kind of makes that worth it. Like,
Sure.
yeah, I've had people tell me, who haven't seen me for a while, like, oh, like, wow, I'm like really excited to see that you're still like doing your work. You're doing comics and writing. It's like, yeah, that's right. And that feels good to hear that. Like, I'm still doing it, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a kind of what I'm. in circles here, but yeah, that's pretty much what I think about that.
Yeah, I was just reminded just this last week about how, I mean, even with all of, your successes and everything that, you can do. And, there's so many people you see that like, man, if only I got to that point, it would just, everything would solve itself. And then you get a reminder that that's not really true. I was just looking on Instagram and Dustin
Correct.
Nguyen, the artist,
Yeah.
he was just going off on Marvel for, kind of lowballing him. And, he never really asks for much
Yeah.
and he just does what he's best at and they just kind of take it and run with it. And he finally kind of let out kind of how he feels a little bit about it. And it was kind of crazy to go through and see how many other artists were agreeing and, even when you get to a point where you're like, man, he has a portfolio of all this work and all of these things that he does. And I just consider him a legend in art and everything. And he's still, is having to fight that struggle on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
David is having some health problems and had to go like to crowdsource like funding for his medical issues. This guy, co-created Spider-Man 2099. Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't be dealing with that. But he is. And Marvel's always, I love Marvel, don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Marvel nut. And we need to work for them. But I am not ignorant in the fact that classically for decades not been the best as far as paying artists for what they deserve. And it does feel like every few years we get reminded of that. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's right. They don't treat their artists great. Like what was it? I forgot one of the creators of one of their characters when they did one of the MCU films based on them. Like he got a check for $5,000 and an invite to the premiere, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
This is a movie that's still making millions and millions. And what was it? And it's easy to forget. Like, Image exists. Image Comics exists because Marvel doesn't take care of their creators.
Right.
If they did, there would not be like there would not be Spawn and Savage Dragon. Or maybe they would have done them for Marvel and stuff like that. But like Image exists because these young creators were huge, making money, tons of fans, and they were looking at Jack Kirby and seeing his retirement years and how they're going for him. It's like, you know what? That's our future.
Right.
Kirby did so much for the comics industry. It is a comics industry because of him. And look how he's treated. Bill Finger, this is not Marvel, but I mean Bill Finger, died poor, on a couch.
I was just thinking of
in his
him.
apartment. Yeah. And didn't get co-credited for his work until Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. 3-4 decades after he died. And yeah, these companies won't take care. They have to, and that's kind of the sad fact of it. I don't want to. There are some decent stories. I think DC takes care of their creators a little bit better than Marvel does. But yeah,
I kind of like
I hear the stories.
I like
I hear the stories from both.
Right.
Like I've heard. Yeah, in smaller companies too. There is there's a company, they don't exist anymore. There's a small independent company, Action Dog, I think. I actually submitted a comic to them, and they turned us down. Not Red Knight, something else. And I'm actually thankful they turned us down because, a year later, they were kind of getting in financial trouble because they weren't paying their creators. And there were creators I'm still waiting on a check from a book I did 2 years ago on them. And that's how it can be. approached, I sent them a submission because I heard they were paying their page rates were really good. It's like, oh, okay, let me go to them. And yeah, maybe I don't know. It's not everybody takes care of people the way they should.
Yeah, I was just thinking like when I go to a con, whether it's a local con or whatever it may be, I remember seeing like Peter David or I remember like Jim Starlin was there, and like for me, that's like starstruck kind of stuff. Like that's where I'm like, if guys over here,
Yeah.
Thanos over here, like you got that kind of thing going on, and he's just kind of chilling, by himself, just kind of hanging out, and he has Prince hanging out, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go get his signature, and he's like, yeah, $10, and it's like, look how much money his idea has made, and he's just chilling right here, and I'm like, is anybody else seeing this? Like, this is insane to me. It's just crazy to see that in those
It's
cons.
crazy. Speaking of Peter David, he did Tidewater Comic Con with uh, not with me, but that I did. He was only a few tables away from me, and you didn't know who he was. I mean, you wouldn't really know, you wouldn't really think of him as this person who's like created so much.
Yeah.
He was really nice, by the way. He came to my table and bought a couple red knights, and he actually went over to my wife's table, she had some Tom Servo plushes, and she bought one from him, and I was very excited to tell her that. It's
That's
like,
cool.
hey, do you know who just bought your Tom Servo plush? Like that was Peter David, and she was really she didn't recognize him, but she was like, once she realized, like, oh shit, he bought my Tom Servo. That's great. Um, and just it's so yeah, these creators, these writers, these artists should be, you know, yeah, it's so weird that they're so approachable,
Yeah.
considering what they do. Um, and yeah, this actually isn't completely uh, isolated to comic creating. I hear stories about you know acting and performers and stuff like that. Going through this, like, I've seen actors who like name actors who have regular jobs because
Yeah.
they need the paycheck. Um, I've heard like horror stories, especially in the music industry, like these stars who had like $1 million contracts and huge hit records, but like they really screwed in the contracts and they really didn't own their music, and they didn't really have any money you know that they weren't really making outside of touring, and that's why so many musicians tour, because that's where they make the money.
Yeah.
They don't make the money on the records and stuff like that. And yeah, that's, I guess we've kind of gone off into this subject, but yeah, just harken back to what you're saying, like um, you were asking earlier about being in the uh, doing independent comics. Like if you're going to do your own comics, you got to be prepared to kind of understand the business and figure out what your limitations are, figure out what you can do, what you can't do. Um, and be sure to like, if you're doing like commissions with people or you're commissioning people, make sure you're upfront what you're doing, and if you are working for somebody, just be very mindful and careful and
Yeah.
collaborating and stuff like that. Because it's fun, but it's also work.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
So you mentioned it earlier, you have a Kickstarter.
Yes,
Talk about that a little bit, and what we can do to support you and the future of Red Knight.
thank you. The next issue is issue 8, and the Kickstarter hasn't launched yet. I will say this:
Okay.
we're still um, a few weeks away. To be honest, I haven't settled 100% if we're starting on April 1st or May 1st. That's going to be decided this week, actually, because uh, Lindsay is just finishing up the edits and the formats, and I think I have kind of everything together. And I'm actually putting together the page right now, and I think everything's set. It's probably going to be April, but unless we have a couple of bumps, uh, I'm never. By the way, every time I do a Kickstarter, I'm never confident. I'm ready. I'm always like, oh man, something's. I don't have. I didn't do enough of this or whatever.
Yeah.
But we do have a Kickstarter coming up. It's for issue 8, and it's the second part of a 3-issue story arc I'm doing called Hero Today, Gone Tomorrow. And it's essentially, let's see, Todd McLean as Red Knight, he is grown up in a universe of superheroes. They've been around for decades. This is a thing he loves and wants to do. And that's a huge part of his persona, Red Knight. And there is an issue 7, which is available now on manospublishing.com. Issue 7 is the beginning of like a murder mystery that very quickly gets solved, where this guy, his head just explodes, and in this crowded street, nobody saw anything, and very quickly Martha Brown determines that it is a speedster superhero named Bullet Train, and that leads them into the fact that this character, who was a superhero, was part of the Union of Superheroes, and he is about to do some really off the wall things, and before he and Martha are able to stop them, they encounter the Union of Superheroes, who have come to clean up the mess, and that's where the issue ends, and things kind of go Looney Tunes from there, as far as like everyone fighting everybody. No one's really certain of what one character is supposed to be doing, because it's just a chaos all over the city. And issue 8's really exciting because it's my first all action issue, and I love all action issues. I'd love to throw those in arcs. It's fun. It's great. And the point of this issue really is Red Knight sees all these characters doing these spectacular things all over the place, and he isn't involved. And he feels terribly left out. And that's kind of the crux of this issue, actually, is like what if there was some superhero slugfest and you're not invited to the show? Like you're not welcome,
Yeah.
to the party. And he kind of has to figure out, he and Martha have to kind of like determine like what to do in this situation. Like what's the thing we're seeing to solve this that all the professionals aren't seeing. And that's the main crux of it. Issue. And then issue 9, like I said, it's in the can, so we're going to actually do the Kickstarter for that not long after. There's only going to be like a maybe 3 months so in between. I'll have to figure it out. Maybe 3 or 4 months. There's going to be a quick turnaround on that. So I'm pretty excited. The art on this is really gorgeous. JC Grande, main artist for the book, and he just puts together really spectacular action. I think it's pretty funny. I have some pretty good dialogue on this issue. I'm very happy with it. And also, as far as like writing superhero action, I tend to not load the dialogue.
Yeah.
Up. Like I grew up with like these giant John Byrne, Stan Lee speeches and like action sequences.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you jump around, dodging gunshots, and like do a whole monologue? Like, no, that's not life. I can believe a Superman can fly.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that. that's kind of what's going on with this issue. I'm pretty excited about it. Issue Kickstarter is likely going to be April, if not May. And I got like, oh, hold on, I got this for the first time. I have a tote bag as a
Ooh, look at that.
reward. I know. I'm doing T-shirts, and
That's awesome.
it's kind of also. I know. I tried to do like cool type of rewards. That kind of causes you to be a little clever
Yeah.
and try and come up with something fun. Like I have these cards right here
Oh yeah.
uh, of the characters,
Is that also JC
and
Grande's
I
art?
am a huge. Let's see. He did the Red Knight one. And Shiloh Penfield, one of the art artists in the book, she's amazing. She did issue 6, and she did the art for 10. She did this Martha Brown
Yeah,
one.
those look great.
Uh, there's another artist. I've been trying to have them done by different artists, just to make it fun.
Yeah,
One of
that's
my other artists I work
exciting.
with.
Yeah.
This is Nathan R. Anderson. This James Harmon. He does a really good Nathan. And where is it? There's a fourth one. Here it is. Here's the Sam. This artist Sam Wolbury. He isn't one of my regular artists, but he's really cool. He knows the guys over at A Geek for Fun,
Yeah.
and his art is really strong. So I had him do this White Shark card for me, and These are fun. I'm actually getting close to a full deck, so I think I might sell decks. Because I got to tell you, the Marvel 1990s Topps cards.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I was just thinking of those when you were
yes,
showing those are very similar to those. And I think that's what is so appealing about them. And they have the same quality.
and this is the thing; these don't cost me that. The thing with printing, there's so many different independent printers out there.
Yeah.
Um, the costs are not what they used to be. So producing something like this, if you mind your money and you kind of budget yourself, and you kind of figure out what you can best afford, you can put out really nice quality stuff like this. And I ain't Marvel. Uh, I'm not even as God. I'm not even success. I'm not even like Antarctic Press. I wish I was Antarctic Press. Um, I can afford these.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's these are.
I was all in on the no pun intended when DC did their all in stuff right at the beginning there with the absolute kind of relaunch stuff they've been doing. I was really a big fan of the few cards they did for that. They had the kind of the Justice League Watchtower passes, and then they did a Dark Side. Like those are so fun, and from what I've heard, they did that as a kind of a response from what fans want. And I think like just having those little fun extra things to go into, to encourage going into brick and mortar stores and kind of, be a little more, just kind of show your stripes a little bit by just, being a big participant in this thing. I just think it's a fun little extra tangible thing that feels a little exclusive, but also isn't too crazy. Like I think that's a great spot for comics in general is to have those little things that you can be a part of and kind of, feel a little special for supporting something, besides just the book itself. I've always thought that was really fun. And I hope they do that more in the future as well, because I think it works.
It does work, and all of this just feeds into the fun of creating this. This is fun to create. I think it's fun for fans to take a look at. Um, I offer these at Kickstarters, but I also offer them at the conventions, and people really dig them. They have a lot of fun with it, especially um, people who remember like the Topps cards really instantly know what I'm doing with them.
Yeah.
And they're a fun way to kind of get to know the characters. And the art is gorgeous. Like every artist is just killed it like on every one of these cards. And I'm pretty excited. Uh, I have a fifth card that's going to be in this set. Sam Wilbury did the next two cards, so his character design is just gorgeous. So I'm really excited for the next two cards. I have to figure out what I'm going to do after him. I probably maybe ask JC to do a new card. He hasn't done one since the first one. Um, so yeah, I mean that those are just kind of fun things you can do. And I tend to go back to my childhood. Like, what's the cool, stupid stuff I liked?
Yeah.
Oh, and is there any way I could translate that, to now? And something that I would think would be awesome, and that maybe a fan now would think is cool. Um, and you have to do a little thinking, and yeah, it's neat. I sometimes have this wonderful collector who customizes Mego figures,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
he's made some Red Knight Mego figures for me for the Kickstarters. And I've sold a couple at the shows because every once in a while I have one or two left over, and I'll sell them at conventions, and they sell, which is amazing. Like, it's a $50 doll of a character you haven't heard of, but I made it and it's right here.
I think that appeals to a lot of
Really
people.
cool, and it does. Because Lindsay, my wife, sculpts these beautiful like custom Funko Pops, and they look amazing. And they sell. It's kind of fun. They don't like fly off the shelves. I don't sell a million of them, but like uh sometimes they sell at, conventions. I always have a couple people like get them on the Kickstarters, and it's just a fun part of it.
Yeah. That's what you got to do now. I got an idea for you. You need to write this down. You need to do Red Knight Pogs. I think that would be really fun. Red Knight Pogs.
That's not off the table.
Just have them scattered on your table at conventions, and the people will know what they are when they walk by, and it'll just like,
Oh my god,
that'd be pretty cool. You just have just Pogs
that
all
would.
over.
Yeah, I do buttons, but oh boy, I'd be curious to see if I did that and had them on the. I didn't really over explain them. And see how people would react.
Yeah.
I feel the right people would get it.
Yeah, that's
Like, oh shit, Pogs.
And then you just have like an indie comic character, and they'll put it in their pile of Pogs from like the 80s with all of these crazy things going on. Like, it'll just fit right in. That'd be pretty cool.
Exactly. Oh, one thing I'm trying to do with the comic is in the letters page. I also have a letters page. A lot of independent creators, I've noticed a lot of my peers kind of don't really do much with the real estate in the book. They'll like have the story and maybe an ad for the printer that printed the books, because a lot of printers will give you a discount.
Yeah.
If you put an ad, which is a good deal.
Yeah.
If you're out there listening and you produce an independent comic and you get an independent printer, take that deal if you can. It's always a good idea. A lot of them, like, it'll just be the credits, the book, and maybe an ad for the printer at the end, and that'll be it. And I try to make it fun. Like, this is where the Marvel influence comes in. Like, the Stan soapbox and the bulletin stuff they used to do, and the checklist. I love that stuff. I used to read that all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it would be in the early days, it was Stan, like, talking to fans, and that was the whole part of the whole Stan Lee plan, was like, hey, we're buddies, we're in a club. And it's not a bad idea. Like, it's the comic it's a piece of art that I make, so it is in a way a conversing with the reader. But in the letters page, just lift that veil and just go, hey, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm Justin. this is what the story's about, or this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on in life. Maybe you're feeling something similar. I just feel like talking. And here's a couple of questions about the comic. We can chat a little bit. I think that's neat. I do that. I haven't had really any fans talk to me about it, so I don't know if it's working or not. But I like it. Uh, and I actually just came up with an idea where I'd kind of like to create like a sort of method of like bringing attention to other independent creators, and I'm going to experiment that with this next issue. I'm going to put in the letters page just a list of other indie creators that I think deserve a look.
Yeah.
Like if you're reading my book, check out this book. Check out Ace Blade. Check out American Dreams. Check out The Edge. These are good books, and I'm going to kind of like my plan is to like have a list, and at the bottom of the list is a QR code with the link tree. Like, hey, you think
great.
this book sounds cool? Here's the link tree. Go find it. I'm going to share this as soon as I make these. I'm going to share these with the other creators to use if they feel like it.
Sure.
Like, if you want to put this in your book, or if you just want to put it on your social media. I kind of want to create a little bit of change, even though Manos Publishing and Comics Burrow and Dauntless Stories and a few other independent comic companies out there. We're not part of the same company, but we are also going through the same stuff. We're all like out there, doing our best. So it's not a bad idea to kind of bring attention to each other.
Yeah.
Kind of I've been thinking lately.
Yeah, I think that's important because I feel like in most cases like that, the more you collaborate, the more your own goals will be hit with the success. There's that synergy that everyone talks about in office settings, which is kind of makes you want to vomit a little bit, but it does, it does work, especially when you can do something like that, which, the more you can create that ecosystem, the better your product will be in the end, because, you have just more reach and you have more resources and ways to, talk about your own thing. And so, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think that, whether it's you who, you could have, your YouTube followers who then go on to, they start reading Red Knight, and then they would have never known of these other stories from these other writers, without you. And so, that could go from another direction with someone else who maybe they have, I don't know, whatever it may be. Maybe they have a radio show that they talk about theirs, and then they, they can talk about yours, and it all just kind of works together. And I think that's a great idea.
There is a indie creator, this guy who I just recently started talking with him, become friends of last year, a guy named Sean Wood, and he's a really cool guy. And he's new. He's pretty new with this experience. Like, he's only been doing this for a year or so. And we were talking, we were at a convention together, and he was just talking to me like, yeah, I just, like, the whole, like, a lot of my, like, he just had a Kickstarter come out for his most recent book, and it was very successful, actually more successful than my last Red Knight. I've been doing this for years, and he's really nailing it. And I asked him, like, how how do you do this? Like, how do you go about things? And he's like, I'm always podcasting. I'm always appearing on videos. I'm always like putting my book out there to be reviewed. Like, I'm just every week I'm trying to put some sort of like thing out there in social media. And he's right. Like, you gotta, Stan Lee did a lot of things shady, but like, he really understood. He very much understood. Putting yourself out there and selling yourself and selling the work. Like, he got it.
Yeah.
And I've seen look, man, I think I mentioned this to you earlier. I've seen some artists set up tables and then just shrink back behind their work and stuff like that. And I remember I had a friend who had a comic, and he felt it was too arrogant to put a table out of his own. And like, arrogant? What are you talking about? Like, to you made a thing that you
Yeah.
want to sell and you're proud of and you want people to get into. Like, you have to do some of the work. And I understand, look, I understand that hesitation. I understand that feeling. Like, some people just want to do the work, and putting it out there is someone else's issue, or that's not something they want to do. But like if you want to do it, like, it's part of the job. it's
Yeah.
it's part of a job. um and some people understand it more than others, and you can definitely see. And that's something Sean was talking to me about, and like, he's right. Like, you can't just put something. This works with YouTube. Like, you can't just video and just expect it,
Yeah.
to do thousands of views and
Yeah.
make your Patreon and stuff like that. You got to push it. You got to go out there and you got to share it, and you got to do what you can to get butts and seats. And it's a struggle. And they don't make it easy, because like, the algorithm doesn't help you, and you have to get used to all new rules. And the rules just changed, so now you have to get used to these rules. And it really never feels like always be caught up, because they'll definitely change the rules on you. But I don't know. It's just something that's you kind of have to kind of like roll with,
Yeah.
and accept the fact. And I can accept the fact that I'm not going to be great at everything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be perfect getting this stuff out. You just can't. Like, you can't stress yourself out to that point where you're always like, oh no, I didn't put a video out on Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
and I didn't share it on all these things, and like, it didn't hashtag all the stuff. Like, okay, God, oh my God, just, it's okay.
Yeah. I've been doing that
Don't
too.
destroy yourself.
Yeah, with this podcast, it's been a bit of a struggle at times, just because of not just time, but just finding the right rhythm of what I want to do each episode. And is it something worth putting out? Is it something that's worth going through all of the time? What is something that will make it work a little more efficiently, so it comes out a little bit quicker? And that you have that balance where you start kind of talking to yourself about that, but then you also remind yourself, like, it'll get there when it gets there. You have what you want. Whenever it's ready, it'll be there, and you go with it. And that's been much easier to manage. Especially, I'm not sitting here with a staff. Like, I know you're not really sitting there with a massive staff to help you out. So you do what you can. But yeah, that's how I feel, at least.
I have found, because I went through that phase on YouTube doing TheRealManos.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I gotta up and like do these tricks. And oh yeah, this one YouTuber I've never heard of in my life has all these great recommendations.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, I don't know if you've seen those videos, but there are videos like, oh yeah, when I put these videos out, blah, blah, who are you? Like, who is this? I've never heard of this person.
Yeah.
To their channel, it's like all advice on YouTube. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I went through a phase of trying to produce YouTube videos to work in the rules, and to like beat the system, and like, oh yeah, I got to do all these perfect things. And then I don't know, just after a while, it was just like, look, get the video out when I can.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it the way I talk about it, and if people come to me, I'll put the video out. Like, I share stuff. I try to push what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. For my own mental health, I just can't. I'll just go out there and destroy myself. Trying to adjust to these arbitrary weirdo rules that shadow cabinets, and whoever these people are come up with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you've been doing it a long time, and I'm always excited when you have more videos. There's so many people that come through YouTube from so long ago that I loved watching, and they've come and they've gone, and they've there's some that have left and then they've come back and then they leave again. I mean, I've been I'm that way. And so it's fun, to always find people that for so long ago that I've followed, still making videos and still doing their thing, and it's actually refreshing to see because of just how delicate that whole thing can be for a lot of people who start creating content. It just you never know where it's going to go, where you're going to see. You may never see them again. They may just post their last video and is a normal video, and that's it. And you don't know what happened. So, it's always fun, to see you sticking it out and still doing what you do is always fun. And, it's great. It's a great thing to see when you're, another person making content and going, this person's still out here and they're still doing their thing and this is still happening and they still have these amazing things going on in their life. And, it's a good motivator for others. So, hats off to you for that. But
thank you. That means a lot to hear.
But on top of it all, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I really do appreciate it. What are your final thoughts on everything? Say what you got to, shout out your links for one, for everything else. And, your final words. We'll get you back on the podcast too, I'm sure. We'll, down the line, we'll talk other things. We'll talk Daredevil. We'll talk Mystery Science Theater. Like all that is on the table.
If you want, we can talk Daredevil after the season's done.
Yeah, for sure.
If you want to do that. And let's see, as far as like the links, of course, TheRealManos on YouTube. I also have a Patreon. My links are in my videos. Substack is where you can see my videos and my short stories and my comics. Manos Publishing is my publishing house. You can go there and buy my comics in print and digital. Red Knight is on Facebook, and you can follow it on Facebook or me on Blue Sky. You'll definitely see the links of the upcoming Kickstarter. The Kickstarter should be, like I said, I haven't finalized it, but it should be either in April or May. So look for that soon. And if you have never heard of Red Knight up until now and you decide to support it, you can definitely get the back issues through the Kickstarter or just on manospublishing.com. I had to take a second to remember my own company.
Do you have
that's kind of where I am with it.
Do you have any cons that you're doing coming up? Anything in the summer?
Right. I am doing Tidewater Comic Con. I believe is in June. That's in Virginia Beach. The creator of that actually is going to do another convention in Virginia Beach called Virginia Beach Con. Monster Fest in Chesapeake, which is a horror show. It's a great little show at Chesapeake Central Library. I have my spooky books there and my comics. I don't know if I'm going to have any out of Virginia conventions this year. I'd love to do Heroes Con again. I'd love to do Baltimore Con again. I don't know if I'm going to make them happen this year. But Tidewater Comic Con, I'm kind of a fixture, so you can definitely catch me there. And is I think that was pretty much the main shows. I did Hampton Comic Con this year, which was fun. That was a one-day show, and that was a real hit. It was a small convention. Hey, if you're doing a comic book and you're doing conventions, the first shows of the year are usually very successful. If there's a convention in January, February, oh boy, sign up to that, because people are just starving to get back into it.
Yeah.
So they'll just buy whatever. It's great. Shows are great because everyone's all set. Although some of my most successful conventions were after COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Like the year after COVID, people couldn't wait to buy stuff.
Yeah.
One of my best conventions was the year after that. It's like, great, perfect. So people were just so done with being like inside.
Yeah.
So those are the conventions I'm doing. I am organizing a indie show. We're looking at August in Chesapeake as well, which will feature and promote a lot of independent comic creators. We did one last year for this library, and that was a big hit. Um, we had like a art tables, artist alley tables, and we also did panels all day. And the library informed us like those were some of the most attended like panels they had done at shows in a long time. We had people stay there like all like 5 hours of the show,
Oh wow,
just
yeah.
so they could listen to us talk. It was really cool. I did two panels that day. Each one of the creators who showed up like would talk about something related to their field, and I talked about script writing for comics and creating characters, and that was I've done panels before, but I've never had some as well attended as this, and people really engaged. Um, and that was a lot of fun because what I did was I um, showed various examples of different comic book script writers and laying out the truth that there's no real accepted one way to write a comic book
Yes.
script.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of people don't know that. They think there's some sort of form like in film playwrights, all sorts of different media. There's an accepted method of writing. Comic books do not have that.
Yeah.
They're literally, if you look at five different creators, you're going to see five different styles of scripts. Um, and that was kind of cathartic, I think, for the people that came to see me that day, because like it did kind of ease took some tension off the idea of writing a script.
That's the first thing I noticed
And that's
with
kind of what I want to.
yeah, with I was for the longest time I took Scott Snyder had a writing class he did on YouTube, and he was like a live stream he would do.
Mhm.
And I joined it, and I've been kind of periodically going into those classes. He does them live, and I started live, and then I lost track of time, and so now I just kind of pick up on them whenever I have time. And that was one of his first lessons is kind of just how there's kind of it does. You're right. It eases the tension of writing a comic book because it seems really daunting because you think of all of these comic book writers and how they structured their story. And you're right. You think there's always some form and method that everyone follows, like it's just like plastered on the wall in the office for them. And when you kind of take a step back and see all of the ways you can like bend this idea and how you want to present, whether it's a reveal or whether it's, this new, that kind of a break in an arc, there's so many fun ways you can approach that. And that's a really good point that I think a lot of people don't realize. You're right.
That's one of the things I think is exciting about comic book script writing is there are less rules, and you understand that the door's really kind of open. I've seen that open for people when I tell them that, and as long as it's coherent art, and hell, I don't know, I don't care. Maybe if it's not coherent art, it is you, and you should go forth and try and not do what everyone expects you to, because like maybe you'll create something new that no one saw coming.
Yeah.
It would be nice if someone heard me talk about that and blow my mind with what they come up with. Like, oh man, I didn't even think of that. I never thought about approaching a story this way. Blah 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 blah. And that's. And also listen to artists talk. Like I would listen to David Lynch passed away just recently,
Yeah.
and I would listen to interviews with him talking about like the art of creating his films and his scripts and the way he would approach things, and they would just sound so fascinating and so freeing. And it's for the love of the creation, not measuring up. And I think that's something a lot of creators need to kind of shed is measuring up. That's something that kept me from writing a novel for the longest time. And once I figured out that I can tell the story just through my voice, as if I'm just talking to you,
Yeah.
and go a little bit at a time, chapter by chapter. I was able to write a novel, and that's that was really helpful to me. And I went to, if there's anything I'd like to like approach when I talk about this kind of thing, and talk about younger creators like working. It's like that's it's just you, you can't get yourself stuck up on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You need to just kind of follow through with the communication. It's art is communication, and what are you trying to bring across, and just go from there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of in all, and once you see like in all forms of art, whether it be music, literature, film, whatever, it's very freeing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the first step in anybody who wants to write, at least in my opinion, is the first step is not making it so complicated for yourself and not worrying about the rules that come with writing or the rules that come with the structure. That stuff will come as you hone in on what you want to say. And I think a lot of people have great ideas and are super creative, and they don't take that first step to ever get there. And so I've been trying to encourage a lot of people lately about that, because you're gonna miss a big opportunity in your life that is probably really fulfilling in the end, if you just let that go and just start small and work your way into it. So yeah, I totally agree with all that too. But it's been really fun talking to you again, in person, which is crazy after all these years. It's just been in comment sections and Facebook and all kinds of random things. So it was fun.
Pretty much, did we ever do, for a while I was doing a lot of, like in the mid 2000s, I was doing a lot of collaborations. And have we ever done a collaboration like this before?
No. There was a hot minute where I was maybe going to be jumping in on Geekvolution stuff right around the time I think you were doing that.
Yeah.
And that never really came to fruition. And so, it just was timing stuff just never quite happened. And, yeah, but
you and I have talked, crossed paths a lot. To the point where it's like, I'm sure we did something.
we've like mentioned each other in videos and all kinds of stuff, but it's just never crossed over. So
we've commented and chatted with each other from time to time.
Yeah.
But I guess you're right. Sometimes I think, well, sometimes we jump on different videos, in a group chat. It's like, I'm sure we did something. But yeah, you might be right. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to think about it. Like, I've known you for so long, and like, yeah, we had to have done it sometime, but I guess not.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we finally did.
Yeah, and like I said, you're welcome back. When the season of Daredevil Born Again's over, we're both big Daredevil fans. That'll be a fun discussion. Like I said, we talk about Mystery Science Theater. I remember, like, I've over the years, I've like messaged you, but like, I want to watch a new Mystery Science Theater. What do you recommend? And I kind of reach out to find something new, and we can go on and on about all that stuff. So.
I can't wait to never shut up about it. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, let me just, this episode in this movie. Like, I have a list, of starter movies and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really fine. Finally, good to catch up. Well, yeah, catch up.
Yeah.
Do a video with you.
Yeah, for sure.